If there's anything that is stressful in the military, it's PCS season. So that's what we're going to break down. A few things, a few tips for you. So hang on tight. Hey, welcome back to the channel, friends. As always, man, I am stoked to see you. You see what I did there? I'm such a goober. And I'm sure, as we get going, you probably have, if you have served, some insight, some horror stories about PCS and about moving, about getting out, about ETS and whatever it is. Feel free to leave some comments down below, and I'm sure it'll add a little flavoring to the conversation. If you do have a question, make sure you leave a comment down below, and we'll get back to you, man. Let's get this thing rolling. So I'm gonna break this down into two groups of people I'm gonna talk to. The first one is like that first soldier reporting to the first duty assignment, or junior soldier reporting to maybe the second duty assignment. And then the second one is for non-commissioned officers reporting to duty assignments. Everything from the buck sergeant all the way up to the master sergeant, that sergeant first class, the platoon sergeant, the guy who's out there grinding, and maybe wants a master sergeant wants to be a first sergeant. So the first one up for the junior soldier is a sponsorship. Now check this out. I know that there's only one company in the military that has a quality sponsorship program, and it's mine. Man, it is kick butt, but I'm sure even mine has failings, right? And a lot of organizations, a lot of the companies that are out there do struggle with sponsorship. We do the 5434s and just take care of the Part 3, but we don't really integrate sponsorship into who we are as an organization. So yeah, it kind of is what it is, and that's not an excuse. It's not to say that things are the right way or the wrong way, but make sure that if you are a soldier who is being sponsored, and check your email, right? You can't report to reception and say your sponsorship never contacted you if you haven't checked your email, because that's how people get in touch with you, especially if you're in an AIT or something like that. That's the only way for dudes to get in touch with you, because in ACT, that's the point of contact for you. So make sure you check your email before you PCS, and email it back. Let them know what your phone number is. If you have any questions or concerns, maybe you have a family, maybe you have a single with some other special concerns that might be unique to you, make sure you bring those up on the front end before you PCS. And when you do finally arrive and you make it to reception, and that most soldiers, commissioned or enlisted, are going to end up going to a post-reception program, and it's essentially a reception and integration to that military installation as a whole before you get kicked back down to a unit. In some places, you might be reassigned right then, and that's another failing of the sponsorship program, because while you could be assigned, let's just say, to 4th ID, you get to 4th ID reception, man, and they kick you from this brigade to that brigade. And so, things happen. But in reception, it's going to be a little bit of a slower, hectic time, especially if you're new to the shuffle and the bustle and you have no idea what's going on. You don't even know what questions to ask. So just go with the flow. Go follow that mob around the post, and get the things done that you need to do, and then get over to your duty station. Now, at some point in time, somebody from whether it's the brigade level or battalion level, is going to meet you at reception. They should give you a couple things. They should give you a patch for your arm. But if they haven't done so because they suck at life, go to clothing and sales. If you want to stand out by the time you make it to the me in your unit, by the time you make it to your first sergeant, have a stinking patch on your arm. Don't be wearing the last units. Don't be saying, man, a couple stinking dollars. Just go buy one. It really will make you, it'll make you stand out. So for housing and chow, if you're single, and your housing, it's awesome because it's free, right? You have these huge dormitories we call the barracks, and it's where all the single soldiers live. They're so awesome. But on a serious note, they're way better than they were, just 10, 20 years ago. But most people are going to have single man rooms. So there's probably a few out there that are still doubled up. And worst case, I think anymore, you have 2 single rooms and you share, a latrine in common area. So it's really not that bad. I know it sucks because you have people like me who's in there, making sure that things are taken care of, that you're not living like a stinking pig. But it's not that bad. You'll get over it. And then next year you got some chow. So you do have the defect, and so you should end up in your S1. We should get you a meal card. And when you're a junior soldier, you don't make a lot of money. And I know a lot of people don't like the defect. But you can either waste all your money buying Gee Dunk and going down to the shopette and the Class 6 and the commissary and stocking things up. But you're wasting even more money because the military is not paying you, your BAS so that you can do that. So it's costing you twice as much, man. Just eating the defect and you'll be all right. So integration, right? So by the time you make it to me, and you're reporting to your very first company, or and you're meeting your first sergeant, you're meeting your platoon sergeant, meeting your team chief. This is an integral time that will help mold and shape, because it's all at first impressions, right? And I've been burned on first impressions. Some people have put on some really good faces, talked a really good story, and I was wrong in my impression. I've also been wrong on the other side, where I thought somebody was like, whatever, this dude sucks. He just scored a 191 on his APFT, and then it turned out to be a stud. So, but this is an important time to bring your A game to that first impression. It's not a job interview. Either way, you have the job, right? Either way, you have the job. But this is a time to bring forth a little bit of you to the table, right? I want to know a few things. I want to know who you are, like who are you really, not just what your name is, but where are you from? What's your family like? What are some of the values that you grew up with and that you believe are important to you? What are your hobbies? What do you like to do? What kind of personal issues might you have, whether it's finance or family, whatever it is? In my company, I hold people in my headquarters platoon when they first arrive. I don't kick them down to the platoons until they get a lot of things done. And I think it's a pretty good program because I'm talking everything from online mandatory training. And then if I could kick somebody to a school or two before I kick them down to the platoons, that way they're not a burden. Not that anybody's a burden, but I don't want to look at a platoon sergeant and say, why is so-and-so's MedPros red when I just gave them to you? Because I had them, so they were actually red on me. So every time I point a finger at somebody, there's always a few pointing back at you. So I try to be cognizant and aware of that. When it does come to housing, if you are, just to bounce back, to retrograde here a little bit, if you are married, I talked a little bit about the single dudes, but if you are married, before you get somewhere, contact the housing office, because a lot of installations will put you on the housing list before you even arrive. So as long as you have orders, you can send them the orders, and you can get put on the housing list. Now, whether or not you want to live on post or off post, man, that's totally up to you. I could care less. I think on post, especially for a junior enlisted soldier, is the best route because you don't have to, it puts you close in proximity to work, which can help alleviate a lot of stress at home. You don't have to worry about any bills or anything like that. And, but if you don't want to move off post, if you want to move off post, learn how to speak Stoker, put your name on the housing list. You can always not move in a home. I mean, that's exactly what we did moving up here. My wife Tanya and I, we were moving up from Fort Hood, the great place, and coming up here. And so we put our name on the housing list. We looked at the home on post, and we really had no intention of moving on post. We really wanted to live out in town, but we didn't want to close the door. You know, it's something I learned early on from my dad growing up was it's always easier to find a job if you have a job. So in this case, it was easier to find a house out in town knowing I had a house on post if I needed it, right? Does that make sense? So don't shoot yourself. Keep all your doors and all your options open. It doesn't cost you a dime. So, and then when it comes to training, you know, make sure you're looking at the hallway and get a copy of the training calendar. You know, at some point in time, about 4 times a year, we do this thing called a quarterly training brief, and that's where our training calendars get approved. Every unit goes through this. It's a little bit of a suck fest when it comes to numbers and counting beans and things like this. But at the end of the day, we end up with a quarter of a training calendar. You know, 3 months, and that's going to provide some predictability to you. Some of the day-to-day calendars that are out there, whether it's printed off in DTMS, whatever, can sometimes be really hard to read. But if you just have a snapshot and you know what's coming up, that way your family can know what's coming up. That way you know what's coming up, as well as some kind of a battle rhythm. Hopefully, your battalion probably has a battle rhythm printed if they're worth their salt, and your company may have one as well, like I do. And it's provides a little bit of predictability of what comes on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, first week, second week, third week, fourth week, fifth week. There are different things that happen, whether it's beginning of the month or the end of the month, whether it's things that happen at the company level or the battalion level. So get a hold of that and get it ingrained into you. And I hope you enjoyed the content of this video. If you did, make sure you like it. Subscribe to the channel if you want to be stoked and stay updated on some future content. Leave some comments down below and we will keep this conversation rolling. And as always, until then, we'll see you.